Please give me one moment before you comment. I think the Chainsaw Man movie, Reze's Arc, was phenomenal. If you know anything about the Chainsaw Man series, you're going to get everything that you want in this movie and more. The animation was absolutely incredible, utilizing a couple, 3 different styles of animation seamlessly. The voice acting was absolutely incredible. Sound effects were top tier, frequently leaving my body clenched up and overstimulated as I watched yet another bout between our incredible characters. The musical choices didn't miss a beat. Nothing was wasted, from glitchy dubstep to rock to classical. At one point, to connotate a lot of dissonance for a particular scene, it sounded like they had a microphone inside the piano. The decompression of the keys and the pull of the strings sounded louder than the actual note itself, which was absolutely astounding to me. With all that said, the animation, the voice acting, I don't know how much this series and the movie especially stuck in line with the manga. I don't really check that kind of stuff very much. But all these things to say, notwithstanding, that was incredible about this movie, I genuinely hated watching this, and I don't want to watch it again. But it was a 10 out of 10. As I was trying to figure out my feelings about this movie today at work, my brain randomly decided to think about Reze and how much the song Boom by Baby No Money would really fit her.
She got that. Boom, 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 boom. She told me come back soon. Boom, boom, boom.
Our personal enjoyment of a piece of media, I think, is the weakest litmus test for the value of that media. Because depending on the day, depending on how we're feeling, depending on how that piece of media meets us in our life, we might have a totally different impression of it than the next person. That's one of the main reasons why I don't believe that art inherently is subjective. I think there are specific ways that certain forms of media need to carry certain narrative structures in order to be considered a good story. It's the same thing in the dance world. If you're doing an arm wave and you don't isolate the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist, and the hand when you're doing the arm wave, it's not going to look good. You can argue that you don't need to have all those components in order to make it look good, but structurally speaking, you are not dancing that dance correctly. That's how I feel about most artistic stuff. And I'm looking at you, every single critic of media on YouTube especially. A lot of y'all just fall into the trap of arguing that an artist is bad because you don't like what they put out, versus whether or not they are continuing with their skill set or not. Now, I know anime, it has no shortage of really sad stories. It's one of the great things about it. The mere fact that it is hand-drawn and very cartoony in nature in a lot of ways, coupling it with very drastic stories and very dark themes in a lot of those stories, is a great little bittersweet, way of describing things. And in Chainsaw Man, we already know, based on how the series has gone so far, that nothing looks good for anybody. Nobody really cares about anybody else, even the people who Denji believes he is somehow indebted to because of how his life is just ever so slightly better because of their involvement in it. He is still so naive about what else he can experience in life or should be able to feel about himself because of the limited growth and enjoyment of things that he has ever had during his time on Earth. We all know that, and we've seen that, but we keep hoping that it doesn't get worse. Or at least that was my impression. During this whole movie, though, I felt like I was watching a slow-motion car wreck. And sure, oh man, this car wreck's coming, oh, I hope they're going to be okay. Well, now we got to dial it back, because every time that we see anything sweet or potentially enjoyable for these characters, that just adds other features into this car wreck that makes it all the worse. Oh, well, now we see that there's a young couple up front talking and giggling and having a nice time. Ooh, that's really going to suck. Oh, but wait, now there's children in the back seat that are waving, and they're holding up some coloring that they did that looks really, really cool, and you only see it for a few seconds before it's all taken away. It's something that was bound to happen, but every time we get a nice little sweet moment of consideration and care, and dare I say a moment where the characters can breathe amid the chaos all around them, that makes the ultimate desolation of everybody and near everything all the more painful. Now, I was kind of ruined on one of the few scenes in the movie that everybody was talking about. I kind of already knew what it was about, how it was a great moment of openness and transparency between two of the main characters. I legitimately got up and left the theater under the excuse that I needed a soda. I did get a soda, so, it wasn't for nothing, but I just didn't want to experience it. I didn't want to put myself in the position where I see something positive that I know is going to be taken away. There was plenty more of it in the movie itself, don't get me wrong, and I was genuinely upset the entirety of the film, and it got worse and worse and worse. Now, to kind of close this discussion about this movie, I don't think it was a bad movie at all. I don't think the people in charge of the story, again, I don't know how much this, movie goes along perfectly with the manga or the series predating it. I don't know. But however it's gone about with the story being created the way that it has done a masterful job giving all sorts of indications of some semblance of hope, some semblance of a prayer between all these characters as they're just trying to survive. There's plenty of anime out there that put the characters in a very troubling world. A world where the odds are stacked against them, but with series like Dun Da Dun and stuff like that, typically speaking, as much as the characters have all these conflicts, there's always some kind of resolution, there's always some kind of an upswing. This series, and this movie especially, drove it home for me yet again to not expect that from Chainsaw Man. Yes, a couple of our main characters will always be able to stumble back to their apartment, rest up, and fight another fight the next day. But the loss that has to happen along the way was just so hard to take because there were no redos. There was no let's find some roundabout way to have characters not just flat out die on us in horrible situations or, have to betray us for one reason or another. It's a reality that we don't ever want to experience. At least I feel in a lot of shows like this. We always want there to be some positive, because especially when we get closer to the characters and enjoy them, we want to see them stick around through thick and thin. But as the movie goes, there's a lot of it that just doesn't offer that, as we've seen with the show itself. And that's why it just got to be so difficult to stick with and feel like, at the end of the day, as much as it is a great story, that it was something that I could personally say was enjoyable. But that's my thought on that. You guys tell me your thoughts in the comments if you've seen this or not. Let me know what you thought about it. And that's all I gotta say about that. Thanks for watching. I know this is different than my normal videos, but I really just had to talk about it. I confused everyone that I sat with in the theater. I went with a few friends, and when I told them that I genuinely hated the whole process, they were very confused, and we had to have a talk about it. And now I'm talking about it with you, and hopefully I'll be able to move on from it. But that's all I gotta say about that. See you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching, and peace.